Welcome back to our community. Susie Thomas here with you this morning, hearing some remarkable young women, Renee and Rosemarie, who both are birth moms, who roughly 30-ish years ago placed babies for adoption, one because of a romantic teenage romance, one because through date rape, actually. And so two different stories, but two remarkable women. And both of you have now, you're on the other side of this with families that of your own, and let's talk about the healing that took place from that point to this point. Help us connect the dots there.
Well, I had gave birth to my daughter in 1987, and like I had said before, I really didn't. I had plans for a future, really wasn't sure, what I was going to do after graduation. My adoption was closed as well. And let me just back up for a minute. When I started to talk to my mom about my pregnancy, she said, "What do you want to do?" Also, just like my girlfriend did.
Did that surprise you?
No.
Because you'd heard that one other time already.
Right.
By
I
now.
had heard that, from my girlfriend.
Wow.
And she said, "Well, let me talk to a few people." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm thinking, what the heck does that mean? So my mom came to me about a week later, and she said, "I have a friend who has a friend that has been trying to have a baby for 10 years. Do you think you would like, them to have your baby?"
And can it be arranged that way, that you actually know
It's called
someone?
a private adoption.
Wow.
Which was closed, which meant that I never knew at the time who they were. I found out later, had all my paperwork, had my information, but I didn't have any information on them.
So that if their daughter at some point would like to look up her birth mother, she
it was
would have
in her
that
control.
option.
Yeah, I couldn't.
And sometimes for medical reasons or for whatever,
Right.
it's a good idea.
Right. So, I kind of debated about it, and the farther along I got, I thought, what, this is what I need to do. Like, there's no way I'm capable of raising a child. It's just not in me right now. I just don't have the faculties to do that. So, my mom, I can remember my mom and I going, before the baby was born, going to the courthouse downtown and signing paperwork and doing something. And I don't even remember all the details. Like, it's a little foggy, some of my memories. But I just remember walking out of there and thinking that my mom was something extra, I had a glimmer of like, whoa.
A new relationship with her.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, my mom and I have really had a tough road, through my teen years and 20s. And, I kind of went through a lot of garbage before I got to where I am today, pretty much.
I'm sure you realize now what an incredible blessing you were to that couple who had been trying for 10 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Without success to have a baby.
That part of it for me has changed my life, because for such a long time, I really, really thought about and hinged on, what me, you know what I mean? And how it affected me in my life and my circle and all of that kind of stuff. But God really started to change my heart towards this woman.
Yes.
Probably about 10 years ago when Rebecca turned 18. And I was like, oh my gosh, she could find me. This girl could look for me. And I at that point, hadn't looked for her yet. And I remember thinking, okay, God, if this is going to happen, you need to help me out here. And like Rosemarie was talking earlier, we had, I guess it was 2011?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's probably been a good 5 years.
We had, at that time, it was called Pregnancy Support Center. We had some people got in contact with us about working through an adoption support group. And I was like, oh, okay.
What a good idea. What a good idea.
This is amazing.
Yeah, God's kind of amazing. He does bring opportunities for, and that's part of my story, is that he keeps dropping opportunities in my lap to say, okay, time to deal with this again, time to do some more healing, time to unpack a few more things and a few more feelings. And
you are two members of a very large club. Everybody who's ever been adopted, there are birth parents, and yet you don't walk around with any kind of anything that lets anyone else know.
Right.
Me too.
Yeah, when you're an adoptive parent, everybody celebrates it, and there's parties, and there's and all of that. When you're a birth mom, you kind of you place that baby in that family, and then you kind of disappear into the background. And people don't think of that side of it, but we kind of really do kind of just disappear. You kind of dissolve, and you go back to your life, and people expect that you're just going to slip right back into your life, forgetting that there's loss there. There's grieving that needs to go on.
Yes.
And I don't think I know I didn't grieve appropriately. I don't know about you, Renee. You try everything but grieving, and you finally get to a point where God brings you to your lowest. And again, through formerly Pregnancy Support Center, now Pregnancy Choices, I did a healing ministry, just a sexual healing ministry. It was just a general called Invisible Bonds that they did at the time. And then through that, people knowing my story, then was asked to meet a couple of birth moms, and I thought, oh, okay. And now, as I see, God just has this plan. It's so cool how He just constantly, and again, today's interview, I spoke to my husband and to a couple of friends and my daughter, and I said, I don't know if I can do this. This is a really hard time for me. It's a hard time of year.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend said to me, God's bringing you this opportunity to further your healing.
Wow. He's amazing how He works, isn't He? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the birth itself. That's hard.
Yeah. Oh,
and you have layers on top of how hard that already is. Is that blocked out of your mind? Or?
Oh, no, I remember every minute.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about
it. Okay, back to 1982 now. We're in July of 1982. And my then boyfriend, who was my support system, and my mom. My boyfriend lived out of town and had come in to see me the day before, and he had to go home. He had responsibilities at home. So the next morning, I'm like, oh boy, I guess this is happening. And my dad had gone out of town on a fishing trip, and so I'm like, Mom, I think it's time. So my mother's like, okay, here we go. So we go to the hospital, and I had a natural childbirth.
Oh, my.
There was nothing. And I was like, seriously? It was, I
can't salute you enough.
I am now the mother of three. I have two children with my husband. We've been married 22 years. And actually, 22 years on Saturday.
Wow, happy anniversary.
Thank you. But I had epidurals with both my kids.
Yeah.
The children that I am in possession of. Yeah. But I went back, and I go back, and I'm thinking, how did I do that? And my mom, she just was like, suck it up. You got yourself in this situation. Suck it up. And I was like, okay. So that's kind of exactly what I did. I just was like, okay, I got to do this. This is the plan. This is what we're doing. This is the way we're going. And I did it. It was...
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And on top of that, I never saw my daughter. All I ever saw of her was her hand. I gave birth. When they wheeled me into the delivery room, I gave birth. They knew I was placing, so they took her right away. They didn't. I didn't hold her. I didn't bond with her at all. My mom did get to see her. My mom went to the isolette and saw her, but they wheeled me out, and the isolette was there, but all I saw was kind of her hand. So,
have you met her since?
I have not. I do not have a relationship with her, and when Renee and I met, she had a desire to meet her daughter. And I said, I've never had that desire. Mm-hmm. And the other gal that was a leader in our group also said, oh, yeah, I at that time she had a relationship, kind of a cursory relationship with her son. But, and I said, they both had desire to have that. And I'm like, I just never have. And again, thinking about this interview and coming and talking about it, God said to me, there's a reason you didn't. You've never wanted to have a relationship with her, and I think it's the circumstances of her conception.
Yes, completely different.
But it's that's another step in my healing,
and something she would never really need to know.
She wouldn't need to, but and it's not that I would. it's not that I'm not open to it. Mm-hmm. If she were to contact me, that would be fine with me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to seek her out. I don't have a desire to seek her out.
Totally understandable. Renee, you have a different relationship. You are now enjoying grandchildren through the daughter you placed.
Yes, one sweet little baby. Her name's Lillian, and she is like the sweetest little chubby cherub I've ever seen. Literally cheeks for days.
That's just so wonderful to hear. I mean, for both of you, the healing process is so evident. You now spend time counseling with others. Talk about how that takes place and how wonderful for them. A person finds himself in a situation and they're able to meet you, Rosemary. They're able to meet you, Renee. And, here's someone who has been in my shoes and they know all this. And to be able to be compassionate, non-judgmental in any way. Talk about what you do now through Pregnancy Choices.
Well, I'm employed there now. I answer the phone and also do peer counseling and facilitate the ladies' Bible study. But I do have the opportunity periodically to counsel with girls that are either considering placing, have placed, those two categories. And it's really been neat just to see, when the girl comes in, whoever she made her appointment with maybe won't tell her, oh, by the way, your counselor has placed. But I know that this girl has placed. So it's really neat to, once we get to talking and to sharing, I purposefully share that part of my story. So then, I'll get her to open up about it. And it is like Rosemary said, they just don't know, like they just haven't met another person, let alone another woman that's possibly older than them or is in a different season with it than they are.
Yes.
A lot of the girls I talk to are pregnant, contemplating placing, or have very recently placed, like within a year or two. So they're really raw. They're in that just part of them that is still figuring it all out, and God is working and that kind of thing. So,
I knew our time would just absolutely fly and we're out of it. I do want to recommend to anybody going through this or with questions, go to pregnancychoicesforme.org. And both of you, I just need to thank you on behalf of these two beautiful young women who you don't know, but you can know that they have a life and they have an abundant life because of a choice that you made. And thank you for your hearts and for sharing your stories with us this morning.
Thank you, Susie.
Thanks, Susie. It was a pleasure.